get an email from me that has a link to be able to watch the session in the future, so you can always go back and pass that on to someone too. Finally, we're all Virginian educators. We have 158 people in here right now. I know almost 250 people signed up, so that number may go up quite a bit higher. So we're here, we're trying to support our kiddos, and we're all in this together. Okay, so now we're ready to move into the actual content of what we're going to be talking about with forms today. The first thing is I like to start with an overview and be able to see if we've never built a form before, if we've somehow never filled out a form before, we'll get to this common understanding of what this tool is. Then we'll go to forms. We'll start to look at the features, how we can leverage it. Step 3, we'll have probably, I'm hoping, about 10 minutes to work on one of 3 challenges, and you'll be able to pick which one you choose to do. And then finally, we'll come back together and have a wrap up and be able to get feedback from you, I'll be able to answer your questions, and that's where we're going. All right, so continuing on, looking at the overview, this is a really short video about what forms is. So we'll watch that, and then we'll look at some resources just so we have that common understanding before we get into getting hands-on with this tool. All right, so here we go, and we'll watch this.
In today's lesson, you'll learn about Google Forms. Forms let you create surveys to gather classroom data and monitor student progress. You can get instant results as students submit responses and view data in simple charts and graphs, or as a spreadsheet. Forms is integrated directly with Google Sheets, so you can easily evaluate patterns, areas for improvement, and other trends in the classroom.
Okay, so again, I know a very short video about forms. Now what I would like to do, I'm going to pause our screen share and just invite a few different people to share what their takeaways were about what forms is based on that video, or if you've used it before, to just give us a very short summary of what forms is and how you can use it. So again, if you'd like to respond, please unmute in Zoom, and we'd love to hear from you.
I teach special ed at the high school, so we are constantly looking at data, and that can be very hard to kind of make sense of or keep track. So what I've learned with the little experience I have with forms that I've created, I've been able to create a form that the results go into a spreadsheet, and then I can get my data, and it's all in one place, which has been really helpful. So as a special education teacher, that's where we need the data, and it's right there. So the little that I have used forms, and I feel I'm learning, that has been really helpful from a special ed teacher point.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I've definitely worked with quite a few special ed teachers who use it for data tracking, and then for each student that they have, they would list their goals and be able to do that progress monitoring, easy graphs that come out from it. So yeah, awesome way to use that tool. The other thing to know is once you have your form built, and I would encourage you to do that on a desktop or laptop, then being able to pull up the form on your phone and filling it out right here, so that you can use the voice to text to record your notes about, have that qualitative feedback about how your students are doing, in addition to clicking and getting the quantitative.
Is it easy to put with our phone? I didn't know how to.
To open it up and fill it out, not necessarily to build. I would definitely use your computer to build. Mm-hmm. All right, so absolutely, we can use this for tracking our students and seeing how they're doing, whether it's a special ed context or not. So I'm going to go back to sharing my screen at this point, and we will keep rolling through it. Oh no. There we go. Okay. So with this, on slide 7, where it says forms, that is linked. Let's go ahead and click there. And this is going to open up in a tool that I keep taking people to throughout these sessions, and that is the Google Teacher Center product guide and the Getting Started page. So with this, we have a video that probably will look pretty familiar. So what is Google Forms? We have these in here, and you'll notice that there are 6 different videos in this series. Each one is between usually 30 seconds to a minute long that you can watch with how to access forms, how to share a form, how to view the responses as a summary, and viewing it with an individual submission, and all of that is available here. Quite a few of those videos will be linked or are embedded in our slides moving forward as well. When we scroll down, we have additional supplemental materials in here, like how to set up locked mode in quizzes. If you are a school that uses Chromebooks, it's really easy to do, customizing our forms and so forth. And then we have lesson ideas in here. So how can we empower our math class or have a paperless classroom? And we have training or walkthrough guides that go along with each of those skills. So that's kind of a on your own type of learning, but also knowing that these resources exist for you so you can go back to it in the future. The other thing to note, to me, forms, to just summarize it, would be to collect info, to easily be able to display data that is constantly updating. And then it also has an amazing feature of having self-graded quizzes that we'll take a look at as well. So at this point, we're going to go to Forms, and unlike a lot of the other tools that we go to by first heading to Google Drive and clicking New and selecting that way, I like to take people to forms.google.com. You can either type that in, or if you have your own copy of the slides pulled up on slide 8, you can just click the link that's on there. And we'll take about 10 seconds for everybody to get to forms.google.com. And then we'll take a look at this location, and I'll tell you why I like people to go here. Okay. So I'm hoping that most of us are there now. And one of the big reasons that I like people to come to forms.google.com instead of accessing Forms through Drive, at least the first time that they try out Forms, is because of the amazing template gallery that exists right at the top of this page. So what I'd like you to do is click towards the top right-hand side where it says Template Gallery. This is going to open it up. Now, if you're using a school account, you might notice that there are 2 different tabs here. One will have your school district's name, and then the other will be, I think, General Gallery or General Templates, and we want to be in the General one. Once we come here, you'll notice that there are a few different categories of templates. We have 3 different categories: personal, work, and education. And I would like to just invite you to take the next 3 minutes to look at as many of these as you would like. It might be, for some of you, just looking at one. Other people might try out 5 different ones, but you have 3 minutes to explore. We'll come back together, and I'm going to invite people to share what it is that they found and how it might be helpful for you moving forward. So again, to be able to open one of these, you simply click on the thumbnail, or click on the picture of the form, and that will open up a new copy of it for you. Let's go ahead and explore, and we'll come back together in just a minute.
How did you get to the general folder?
So you probably at the top of your screen will have 2 different tabs. One that has your school district's name and one that says something like General up there. Is that showing up for you?
No, only my school.
Okay. So I'm going to stop my screen share, and if you want to share your screen, we'll probably be able to figure this one out. Do you know how to share a screen in Zoom?
No.
Okay, so head back to your app, Zoom, and towards the bottom of the screen, you'll see that there are a bunch of tools down there. And one of them will be a green square or rectangle that says Share Screen. Are you seeing that? Okay, cool. All right, so in the top right, click where it says template gallery. There you go. And by default, it's on Richmond Public, but right to the right of that, it says general. And they're all in here.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Way to go, Adam.
All right, so I will be right back. I need to go check in with my boys. I'll be back in about 1 minute, okay? Keep exploring, and I'll check in with you in just a minute. All right, so right now it's 9:18. So I would like to bring people back together and be able to hear from you about what types of templates you saw and how it might be helpful for you as a teacher.
For me, I know in the past we've used the scheduling of the times. It's like which time works for you for our parent teacher conferences. And that one's been like find a time. It's been super helpful.
That's awesome.
Because then we could send it right on our class dojo, and then it's a link for parents. They don't have to worry about filling and returning in a sheet. It's just done automatically.
That's awesome. I'm glad that you guys were able to use that. So here we have find a time. What times are you available? And they can go through and select. Now, a quick note about any of these templates. They are adaptable. So it is just, here are some questions that are already built out for you, and you can customize them however you want. Thank you, Leah. Who else would like to share about one that you found helpful?
Adam,
Yes, Pat.
the Axate tickets are awesome. I know it's a simple thing that we've all probably done, but still it's easy, and especially with virtual learning, I think that'll be great.
Pat, you stole the one that I use all the time. This is my go-to for a lot of sessions that I do when I'm in person, and certainly when we're doing virtual learning, being able to just go in and make quick changes to reflect that particular day. It's a big win that it's already put together for you. Thank you, Pat. Who else? Let's hear from maybe one more person who'd like to share out.
I have one. I have to supervise a really large club. And at one point what we did was, and it happens in a very short period of time in school, and people skip classes and things like that. So we used to pass around a clipboard, which was kind of you can never get the clipboard around the whole club before the meeting was over. So what I've been doing this year was I had a whole bank of I had about 5 Chromebooks out at the entrance to the meeting, and there was a bit of a traffic jam when they all signed in on a form, and I honestly don't know which form it was. I just sort of made it. But anyhow, they would all sign in, and then they come into the meeting, and while the meeting was progressing, not only did I have the sign in, but I could go to the spreadsheet and I could share the spreadsheet with the staff in the school, so everybody could immediately tell if they check the spreadsheet, they could tell whether that student who said they went to the club meeting was actually at the club meeting, and that was really helpful.
Right on. That's awesome. So an idea that's kind of similar to that I did in a traditional year, this was really helpful. This year it'd take a little bit different form. Every year for back to school night, I would have several computers set up and collect parents' contact information. I know we have PowerSchool or other systems that supposedly have the most up-to-date information, but I always found this to be really helpful. and I could get all that info into one common place and being able to print it or, you know, make an email list, whatever it might be. All right, so I know that others of you probably found ones that you really liked as well. What we're going to move into, you can either use one of those templates that you found as your starting point, or if you'd like, go ahead and click where it says blank, and we'll start from scratch. And again, it is completely up to you which of those two routes you want to go. I'm going to start from blank. Okay. So now at this point, my form is opening up. For some of you, you might have, you know, that template that has 10 questions already written. Other people, you followed my lead and you have the untitled form, blank form, and that's good. So the first thing that we need to go over is we have two different titles here, right? They can be the same, they don't have to. So the one in the top left is just for you. So this is going to be the file's name when you go back to Google Drive, or if you're at forms.google.com, this is what's going to show up for you. So for mine, it might be parent contact info. And now here, when I click, it's going to link it, but I can always go in and change it. So this could be family information 2021. And just like all of our Google tools, whenever we type something in, it does save it automatically for us. A couple quick notes. If you've been in my other sessions, you know that I kind of go top left. In Forms, we generally have two different tabs here. We have questions, and this is where I'm going in and editing what fields I'm going to have my people fill out, and then responses, where I can switch modes and be able to see what people have written. And we'll look at both of those in our time running through this. The next thing that we see after our title is form description. And this can just give people a general, here's how I'm going to use this information. Or maybe I say, welcome to Mr. Seipel's class for the school year. I am excited to work with you, even though I don't know exactly what this might look like. And I can, you know, give them that description. Then we get into our questions. And so my first question in here is going to be, what is your name, right? So I'm going to start typing first and last name. And notice that when I start typing, just to the right of where I'm putting my question in, we have the question type, and it actually changed on its own based on what question I'm asking. So before it was multiple choice, and as I wrote first and last name, it switched automatically to short answer. In our time together, we will look at the different question formats in just a moment. The next thing I want to do, though, is to add another question. Now, there are a couple ways that we can do this, but I want to draw your attention over here to the right-hand side. We have kind of this floating menu. And on here, we have 6 different buttons, but the one we want is this very first one, the circle with the plus sign in it, and that will add a new question. When we do this, starts from scratch. So I'm going to start typing in my next question, which might be, let's see, preferred phone number. And again, it's automatically changing from multiple choice to being a short answer question. And my final question that I'm going to do right now, again, I'm clicking that add question, and this time I'm going to ask which class. And this one will be a multiple choice, right? So in here, as we see right beneath the question, I start to type in my answer choices. So the first one might be 1, then 2, then 3, right? So I can start to put that in. But what if I have a student who is only with me for a club, but I still want to be able to get their information? Well, I might want to be able to offer kind of a write-in vote. And that's not going to be something that I type in, but rather it's going to be something that our participants, our responders fill in. And so to do that, I'm not going to click add option because that's going to put one that I just paste in there for everybody. I'm going to do this add other. And add other allows whoever's filling it out to have that write-in option where they can type in something that I didn't list specifically as an answer choice. So can you see on my screen, we have 1, 2, 3, and other. Okay. So now that I have 3 different questions filled in, we're going to start to kind of look around how we can customize beyond this. Okay. So on here, each of my questions is basically its own card. We can think of it as a card. And on here, it has a question name. And then if there are answer choices, those show up too. Now to the right of where I have my question, we have the option to add in an image if we want. We're not going to mess with that today, but we do have the drop-down choice for what question type we want to do. So when I click on the question type, you'll see that we have, I don't know, about 11 or so of these different options in here. We'll run through when you might want to use those right now. So the first kind of set of options would be short answer and paragraph. These are largely interchangeable. Short answer, I think people are, if you don't put a specific limit on it, they have up to like 11 pages worth of text that they can type in. So really these are just aesthetically a little bit different. If I change this question from short answer to paragraph, it just makes the line longer. It makes the text field longer for the respondent, but really behind the scenes, it doesn't limit them much one way or the other. The next set of choices that we can do are the multiple choice, checkbox, and drop-down set. So these all behave somewhat similarly, but they each have a slight nuance, and there might be a reason why you'd want to use one over the other. Multiple choice, if I'm only doing 3 or 4 choices, this is my go-to. If people are only going to pick one option and it's maybe up to 5 choices, this is going to be my go-to. Now, a checkbox, again, is going to list everything out. However, this time we can, someone responding can pick more than one choice, or they can pick 0 choices. So that really makes it more flexible. So if we go back to that, when are you available to do our conference? And they can, maybe they're available for all of them, they'd be able to go and check each of those choices. The final one in here is drop down. I don't use drop down a whole lot. I used to work in a pretty large school system in North Carolina. We had 81 schools, and sometimes we would do a form and ask people what school they work at. And I didn't want to have multiple choice where 81 schools are listed in like that. So I switched to drop down for that option. And they could just click kind of like this and be able to go and find, well, I'm at Reagan High School, or I'm at West High School, whatever it might be. So those again, pretty interchangeable, but some nuanced reasons why I might choose one over the other. The next is file upload. This allows someone to post a file from Google Drive or that's on their computer, and that it would be saved in whoever made the form in their Google Drive. I use this sometimes, but again, not too frequently. Then we get into our Likert style questions, so linear, multiple choice, and checkbox grid. And again, with these, when we make one of these choices, I'll make a new question in here that follows this. We'll do linear scale. So this could be, how was the session for you? And I can label 1 to 10 or 0 to 10 as my scale. And I would want to give people feedback or insight about what these numbers mean. So 1 might be not good, Bob. 10 could be amazing. So last week I was doing some sessions with people, and I guess this wasn't clearly labeled. And I had one person who kept giving me all 1s, and I'm like, what am I doing wrong? And then I looked at their their feedback that they typed in, and they're like, this has been amazing. I can't believe that this session's been so helpful to me. And so we had to, you know, talk through in one of our next sessions about the importance of labeling these and making it very clear what these numbers mean in here. All right, and then our final set that we can do date and time. So with this, what day is it? And for this, date and time. By default, it'll do month, day, and year, and you can always switch it to what time is it, and they'd be able to put that in there too. So if you're doing that special ed observation, or maybe you're working with some EL students, you need to give them time-based feedback and do it longitudinally over the year. That would be a really important question to throw in there too. All right. So I'm going to give you about 2 minutes to just mess around with some different question types, put in as many questions as you can, try out the different formats, and then we'll come back together and look at some other parts of Google Forms. So go ahead and explore, and we'll come back together soon.
Adam, I just had a quick question for you because I'm trying to listen to you and read the chats at the same time. So just to clarify, if I make a form for the students to fill out, do they have to do it on their own computer, or can I have one computer set up for all of them to like do an exit ticket on their way out?
You can do it either way.
Okay.
Yeah, it would depend on some of the settings, and we'll look at settings for the form in a little bit about how that might behave. But good question.
Right. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so we've had just again a few moments to be able to explore different question types. We do need to keep rolling though. We'll keep looking at what we see on our question field. So if I wanted to duplicate this question, I would hit that. It kind of looks like copies. I can delete the question so that it goes away. Required makes it, of course, required that somebody fills it out in order to submit the form and so forth. All right, so the other thing that we need to know is that any of these questions, if I end up needing to change the order, as you hover over a question at the very top, you'll see that there's a 3x2 grid, or we have, it's called a handle, and I can drag and drop to reorder however I want. Makes it very, very easy. All right, so the next thing we're gonna take a peek at is on the right-hand menu that we looked at before, that floating menu, and we're gonna take just a very quick tour of what we can do with this. So we already saw the first button, add a question. The next button is a newer feature of Google Forms, and that's where we can import questions. I mentioned before that I worked in a district that had 81 schools, and I didn't want to have to go in and retype those 81 schools every time that I did a form that required it. So now I could import those questions, and it pretty much makes all of your previous forms into a question bank, and you can pull things in and out. Next, we have a title and description. Think of this as a header within your form. So if you have kind of like different parts of your form, you could use this to be able to say, okay, this next part will be referring to this video, or this is now about student information instead of parent information. You could divide it that way. Then we have two buttons here that allow you to add media directly to your form. The first one is to add an image. The second is to add a video. I'll quickly click through that. So I clicked the image one, and this gives us the same 6 options as other Google tools. I can upload, I can use my camera, I can search my own Google Drive or do a Google image search. So pretty helpful being able to do that. We can also add video. This comes from YouTube. You can't connect it to Google Drive videos, but it can pull from YouTube. I know a lot of teachers will use like Khan Academy videos that do a walkthrough of a math concept and then have some questions that relate to it, maybe as like a skills check. The final button in here is add a section. I know we've all taken forms, filled out different surveys that have different pages to it, and that's what add a section is. I kind of wish that they retermed it to be page, but for now it's add section, and we'll just roll with that. All right, so at this point we're gonna continue on, and we're going to skip ahead to the settings, okay? So towards the top right, you'll see a gear, and we're gonna all go ahead and click on that gear. When we do this, it brings up some choices that we can make. We have 3 different tabs up here. The first is general. So an option that we have is to collect email addresses, and this can be helpful, but it also requires that people sign in to take your form. If you're using Chromebooks at your school and all the kids are accessing your forms through a Chromebook, they're already logged into a Google account. So this makes it very easy. But if you're trying to do something with parents, they may not have a Google account. So you'd really want to be sure that you probably don't check it. The other important button, and it's not showing up on mine because I'm using my personal account, but if you're using a school account, there's probably something in here like restrict to Fauquier County or Albemarle County. Again, if you're working with just your students or your coworkers, it's fine if it's checked. If you're trying to get a form out to parents, most of them won't have a school district account, so you'd need to make sure that's unchecked. The next one is limit to one response. If you have all of your students filling it out from one computer or a small bank of computers and you're limiting it to one response, you're going to run into some issues. So just, be aware of these depending on how you're using the form, what options you have selected here. Continuing down, we do have the option of students can edit after they hit submit. There are two different ways this can take place. It can either email them a link to go back and edit, or right after they hit submit, there'll be a button on there that says edit. The final one, see summary charts and text responses. This is like taking a bite out of the apple, right? I don't have many times when I want that to be available. In my district, we ran into a pretty big issue where students, that button was checked and students could see some pretty confidential information after submitting a form. So I really avoid this the best that I can. We're gonna move on to presentation now. So on this, we only have a few options in here. The first is to show progress bar. That's really only important if you have multiple sections to it. The next is shuffle question order, which I know as an educator, we're like, oh yeah, everyone gets their own quiz or whatever it might be. If you're using media, like those images or YouTube videos, it's gonna shuffle all of those too. So I like to just warn people, I don't use the shuffle question order too often because it might have some unintended consequences. And then finally, show link to submit another response. If you have that parent back to school night and you want people to fill it out one after another, this is really helpful to have. All right, confirmation message would be after they hit submit, what do they see? By default, your response has been recorded. You can make this whatever you want. Finally, we have quizzes. This is kind of a next level Google Forms topic. We do have some videos in our slides that will go through how to really maximize this. So at this point, I am going to skip over it. With our settings, we do need to make sure we hit save in order for them to take. Yeah, bud. What? I don't really know. Oh, you want some more snack? Not right now. I'll come help you in a little bit. You want Lucky Charms?
And let's just put them out.
Oh, okay. Well, you don't need them right now. You've had lots of snacks today. All right.
I'm hungry for a snack.
Can I get you a banana? Okay.
I want Lucky Charms.
Okay. Hey, Carter, I'll come help you in just a little while, okay? All right. So the next thing that we're going to take a peek at, sorry, threw me off real quick. We're going to take a look at the responses, okay? So on my screen, I'm going to open up a form. I'm going to find a form. We'll do... We'll do this one. All right, so in the spring, we did a lot of these sessions. And if I toggle over to responses in here, it says we have 414. That's not really representative. We did far more than that. In here, it has our question responses, and you'll notice that I have summary, question, and individual, and we'll take a look at what that looks like. All of these questions are automatically going to make charts and graphs for me. So here, what session did you participate in? 46.5% percent did Google Classroom, 42.6 did Docs and Slides. We can easily see that. Continuing down, we see how is your experience, and we have these charts that automatically come up. And then down here, you got a banana? Okay, bring it here. Good job.
I just put this off.
Great job. Here, come here. Don't walk away yet.
I think that part is.
Yeah.
I think that part.
Oh, it looks so yummy. So down below, we get our qualitative feedback as well. It's okay. Here we go.
The part.
Yep. All right. Bye, buddy. We get our qualitative information here as well. And then again, some more quantitative. And finally, we had a different section, and that's showing up here as a separate area too. Now I can always toggle over from the summary information to a question by question analysis. And so we get all of our responses. I can move into the individual part where I can select any of the 414 submissions. If I want to see number 200, I can do that and be able to see how that person responded. All of this is very simple. I can go in and see it. I can print out an individual response if I want to. The other things that we want to look at are in this top right part of where it has our responses. The first thing that our eyes are probably drawn to is that green button that kind of looks like a Google Sheet. When we click on that, it opens up to a linked Google Sheet. Anytime someone hits submit, that information will come into my spreadsheet as well as that responses tab of my form. And both of those will represent the same information. And I get all that data. So with this, I can do other types of analysis. I can make whatever type of chart I want, be able to publish it, and so forth. Keep through going through these areas. We click the three-dot menu. I can unlink the form. I can print all the responses. I can delete all the responses. Again, lots of choices with how I interact with that data. And I can choose that I'm no longer accepting responses with this form. So maybe after your quiz is done, you no longer want to accept responses. You just toggle that on or off and it will make the changes. Okay, so I know we're still running pretty quickly. A couple final things that I want to make sure we look at when it comes to making our form and how we interact with it. And again, these are all going to be up at the top. If I want to see what my published form looks like and not my editor view, I can click this eye, and that's going to show me again what it looks like when we're filling it out. And because I just selected that we're no longer accepting responses, gave me that error message. All right, so here we go. So this is what it looks like for a respondent filling it out. Continuing across, this next button is important. So most of the time when we're in a Google tool, like here I'm in Sheets or I'm in Slides, it's going to say share in the top right. That's a little bit different in Forms. It says send. It used to say share, and it caused a lot of issues. People thought that they were trying to get the fill it out link to people, but instead their students were all editing the form, and it caused a lot of chaos. When we hit that send form, we get 3 different choices. The first is I can email it to people. The last is I can embed it somewhere. The one I use almost all the time though is this middle option, and that's getting a link that I can post on my website. I can post in an email. I can make a shortened version of it, have it written up on the wall. Lots of choices here, but I would just copy, email it out to my students. I'm going to do that to you later today to be able to get your feedback as well, and it makes it really easy. All right. The next thing that we're going to look at are these 3 dots on the far right of our screen. When we click on that, here we get a couple things that are helpful. Make a copy of your form. Pretty self-explanatory, but pretty helpful. But add collaborators is going to be the part where maybe your PLC is all making a form together, or you're on some leadership committee at your school. If you needed someone to help you to build your questions, you would do add collaborator and type their name in. Again, we would not want to share this link with the parents who are supposed to fill it out, or with the students who are supposed to fill it out. But if you do have someone who needs to help you, you would drop their name in here. So if I want John to help me, and he would be able to be an editor. Okay, The final piece of Google Forms that we're going to look at before we change pace and move into those challenges is this palette option, and where we can customize our theme. So by default, for all of us, it is kind of this purple, unless you chose a template. When we click on that palette, there are a few different choices that we get. The first is to choose a header, and you can customize them, but they do have probably a couple hundred that are already built for you, including the very first ones that are work and school. So in here, I can pick this one. Photos is new. That's good. All right, so here I'm going to select this colored pencil and then do insert. And then it gives me some color options that are within my picture. So if I like this beautiful green here, and it's going to change the color scheme, I can adjust the background color. And finally, I can do the font style. Now I'll tell you, with the font, I never changed that. I like the basic one the most, but I know my wife is a big fan of the playful, but kind of know your audience and who you're trying to, who your responders will be. Okay, so at this point, we've seen how to make questions. We've seen how to reorder them, the different question types. We've looked at settings. We've looked at where our responses will be, how to share these forms out to people or send them out to people, and how to customize our themes. Again, I know we moved pretty quickly, but we do have videos in our slides that can help walk you through all that. We are going to come back together. And so here, again, here are my slides. I know we didn't really use them because we're doing that walkthrough, but we have videos on how to add those questions, how to analyze data, how to do quizzes, and so forth. We are going to look at our challenges now. It's 9:48, so we'll have about probably 5 minutes. You can explore one of these. So looking at the beginning of the year, the 3 challenges that I thought would be most helpful would be going to the templates and starting through your contact information template, customizing it for the families you support. I know Pat mentioned that he liked to use the exit ticket. So maybe, you know, for that first week, you're starting to build out what your instructional materials will be. You can make an exit ticket there. Or if you'd like to really challenge yourself and go next level, you can make a quiz during this time. Now, our goal is not to get all the way done, but at least to get in and have some guided practice with any of these challenges. So go ahead and pick whichever one of these that you would like to pursue. During this time, if you have any questions, you can unmute your mic, shout them out, and John, Eric, and I are here to help you. And then we'll come back together at around 9:54 and do a wrap up for the session. So let's go ahead and explore, try things out, and again, we'll come back together in a few minutes.
Is there a way to make the font bigger?
There is not. So I guess the way that we would, so if you, I don't know of a way on the teacher's end, but on the student's end, they could hit Control+ on their keyboard, and it would make all the text on their screen bigger.
Okay, that's great. It would kind of just zoom into it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Adam, is it possible to use an assessment that you already have done in Word and have it transpose into Google, or do you have to retype everything?
So there is a way. Let me share my screen again. And I haven't used this particular tool for a number of years, so I can't fully vouch for it. But there is a tool in Forms. You might see it if you click on the 3 dots in the top right hand corner. There's going to be something in there that says add-ons. So add-ons are tools that are built into docs or slides, but Forms has some cool ones too. And in here, I think it's called Docs to Form. Okay, it must be in Docs then. And what this would do, it would take, if you have questions in like an outline format, it will take those and import them to a form. But again, let's see, Docs to Form. So I'll drop the link into our chat. I'll go ahead and reiterate, I haven't used it for a number of years, but you can try it out.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, sorry. Tried to drop it in the chat, but it wants an individual person. Let me redo that. All right, other questions, or you can keep exploring.
Adam, I was doing a contact sheet and I wanted to put something in there about which day or time of the week, like one of the other templates had a grid sort of.
Mm-hmm.
Can I do that with the multiple choice and short answers?
So what you would probably do, let me head back to one of my forms. You would probably want to use the question type, sorry, one second. So we would go to question type multiple choice grid or checkbox grid, and that would allow you to replicate what you saw in that other form. So here we could do, when are you available? And our rows would be maybe day of the week, so Monday, Tuesday. And then our columns could be AM, PM. And so when we see the preview of this, it would look like what we have on my screen right now. Am I sharing my screen? I hope I am.
No, you're not.
Oh, no. Okay, let me try all of that again. Okay. So I switched to checkbox grid and then had my question stem at the top. My rows, from how I set it up, would be my days of the week, and my columns would be those different time slots or time periods. And when I hit preview, it opened it up and looked like this. And my families could just go and check whenever they'd be able to come in. Did that help?
Thank you, Adam. That helped.
Oh, cool. All right. So we're going to come back together at this point. I know I cut you off by like 10 seconds. And I would like to just hear from a few people about how that experience was, what you're able to accomplish, and then we'll move into some of our Q&A and really our final wrap-up time. So would anyone like to share something that you're able to build during that time? And by share, you can just say it out loud, describe what you're able to do.
Hi, Adam. I actually was able to take that time and use the template, the meeting template, to set up something for students to sign up for weekly meetings. As we're set up right now, our Wednesdays are sort of open for that. So I set it up to say, like, I have a co-teacher, so they can select which teacher they'd like to meet with, or both. They can select up to 3 different times that will work for them. And there's also an option. The only required question is, would you like to meet this week? Yes or no. So if they feel comfortable not meeting, they can select no and finish up. And that will also create, a record for us to say, well, so-and-so said they did not feel like they needed to meet this week, and that's why we didn't meet with them.
That's awesome. Good use of data. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Let's hear from maybe one more person.
For me, as a special education teacher, it's really nice to see that you can put a video in, because instead of kids having to read, they could just click my video and it could say what I would like them to do, like if I upload it to YouTube. And I feel like that just opens a lot of accessibility to more online things for our kids. That's pretty great.
Yeah, absolutely. Or being able to put in a pictogram instead of having the text in there, and they can, have that visual cue as well.
Yeah,
so that's like Boardmaker.
Even for the answers, being able to click a picture instead of words is really cool too.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. And that also, of course, leads to, we can also use that approach for our pre-literate students. So if we have kindergarten, first grade students who don't quite have that reading ability, the literacies in place yet, we can still use this to do quick word study or projects along those lines. All right, so moving into our wrap up, here are three different resources that I thought could be helpful moving forward. The first is getting started. We already looked at that. The second is the digital skills. So this is an entire series of courses made by Google on a website called Applied Digital Skills. And all of these are video based that you can use with your students. You can post directly to Google Classroom if you're using that. Some of them are for educators. How would you use quizzes with your students? And then others would be your students. How could they use it to get information for a research project or getting feedback, whatever it might be. But again, some really cool video-based, some good accessibility pieces in here. Then finally, we have first day of resources. So this might be phasing out, but it's still in here. And you can go back and see lots of ideas of how to use Google Forms in your classroom. But I do want to thank you guys for joining me. As I mentioned before, you can reach out at these different places. So my email, social media, and my website are all listed on here. You will get an email from me later today that has the recording of the session, other materials, and links that might be helpful. I want to thank John and Eric for being amazing moderators and helping out today. Thank you guys for all that you do, all your support. Thank you to VASCL for putting on so many of these different sessions for teachers around the state. I'm very thankful to both Pam and Liza for your support. And thank you guys. And if you could, please head to bit.ly/3E76XNX. John or Eric have probably already put that in our chat. You can also click on it if you have your slides pulled up. This is a short feedback form that you can tell me how I did today so that I can continue to improve. The final question on there is going to ask you about if you want a renewal certificate or not. Please be very careful with how you spell your name and your email address so that we can make sure that those certificates get to you the correct way and that your name's spelled right and all that. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Pam?
Hey, Adam, Pam here. I just noticed a quick question in the chat about what's your next session this morning about. Wonder if you might do a shout out for that. I don't know if we have space left, but there could be. We have had people do some quick turnaround registrations, I think.
That is true, Pam. So my next session, I know we've had a lot of special ed folks in here, a lot of those teachers. Our next session is on accessibility tools and universal design for learning. A very fun session, lots of new information, and we do have some spots available. So if you want to join us, we'd love for you to do so. And then tomorrow we have sessions on building community. So looking at how we can use tools like Google Meet and Flipgrid. And then our final session tomorrow is really based on you guys, and that's going to be how we can get started. Lots of information from other teachers. And Carter has rejoined us with a box of Lucky Charms. So good time for everyone. Carter, I'll help you in just 1 second. And Liza, can we get the VASCL link in the chat that people can see?
Pam already put it in the chat. Every single person who's on this webinar should have gotten the PDF attached to the connection information. Each of the titles is a link directly to that workshop, or you can go to www.vascl.org. Simple as pie.
Awesome. Thank you guys. At this point, if you have questions, we have maybe like 5 more minutes that we can do some Q&A. If you're done with the form, you can always take off. But if you have questions, go ahead and you can unmute and ask them.
So Adam, if I go in and modify, it's saving my most recent automatically to my drive.
Yes, that is correct. Mm-hmm. Good question.
I apologize for my dogs that are barking in the background. I was wondering if when you add a question, I was trying to like add a picture of a video, a vocabulary word, for example, binoculars. And it says, the question would be, what are these? And then a second question would be, how do you use them? And so is there a way to make it, I was trying to like hit enter to come down a line, but it it still puts it all in one line. Is there a way within a question to make more than one line?
I don't believe so. So what I would do instead is maybe use the that title option to say all about binoculars, and then just have your 2 questions separately in there, so that they are kind of linked through having the title. But then
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question really quick. It's on how to make basically a vocabulary matching type of question.
Mm-hmm.
Which one of those choices would you use for that?
I would probably you would probably need to break it down into individual questions and have the picture and then your different words in there. I'm trying to think.
Well, I'm talking about like, I do Caesar's English. I teach GT students, and we do a ton of vocabulary building, as well as I teach reading through novels.
Okay.
And so like when we read The Hobbit, there's a ton of words that we define and talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And then as part of my assessments, I like to give them words on one side, and then they have a multiple choice, and you just do matching. But I'm not sure which one of those types of questions would work for that.
Would you mind sharing your screen so that I can take a peek at what you've built out so far?
I haven't even started that. It was just
Gotcha.
a question in my head.
Yeah. So I wonder if I might use a different tool, and you might lose some of the self-grading part, but because it seems like it's abstract vocabulary anyway.
Yes.
So I might use forms, or not forms. I'm being silly. I don't know, bud. I might use slides or drawings to be able to have them be able to put in their own pictures, being able to bring in different types of media to explain what that word means to them, instead of using a form.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Well, any other questions out there? Cool. Well, I'm sure I'll see quite a few of you in our next session that starts in about 25 minutes. Thank you all for joining, and have a great day. Thank you, guys.
Have a good break with Carter.
Thank you. Bye, guys.